Ali is here to talk about type checking, something, well, Go developers are already somewhat on board with. That's nice. But for Ruby developers, this is a new and amazing product. And Ali is a software engineer from Malaysia, and he's been working. And well, he came across this fantastic thing called Sorbet. He's writing Ruby and JavaScript at Suria Labs and some other technologies, but most of it he's likes to get his hand dirty on Docker and Kubernetes. Whatever, Kubernetes, I like to say. And he loves TDD, and he loves his service objects. And in his free time, he tends to have his head buried in a book. Ali, I think this is you.
All right. Hey everyone. So I'm going to be talking about type check with Sorbet, Ruby. So first of all, I'm Ilman, a software engineer from Malaysia, working for an agency called Suria Labs. We are specializing in web development and mobile app development. That is my email right there. And on social media, you can find me at Zia Ilman, and on LinkedIn, you can find me at Ali Ilman. Right. So the content of this talk, what is Sorbet? How Sorbet caught my attention. That is an interesting story to tell. And Ruby 3 comes with RBS, a type language. This is something that Matt mentioned during his keynote. So we'll get into that. It's brief information because it's recently revealed to the public. And should you consider adding Sorbet to a running production app and demo? Right, what is Sorbet? It is a gradual type checker, meaning you don't need to add type checks throughout your code base. Doesn't matter if it's a small code base or a large code base, you can add in those type checks one by one in one by one file. It allows us to write type checks in Ruby syntax, so it's not a superset of, it's not like TypeScript, which is superset of JavaScript. It's written in Ruby. It's not a subset of superset. It is built by engineers at Stripe with contributions from the community. So how did Sorbet catch my attention? So previously, I had no interest in writing type checks, especially with TypeScript. It looked cryptic to me. But then I was working on a project that used TypeScript, and I was blown away with how helpful it is having type checks. It just removes the extra time in your brain for you to think, what does this method do? So at that time, I had no idea about the presence of Sorbet. And after building two React projects with TypeScript, I thought, let's search for one. And I stumbled upon Sorbet, and what attracted me is the well maintenance. It is maintained by Stripe, a massive company, and it has an ever-growing community. Also, the documentation. The documentation is very easy to understand. So Ruby 3 comes with RBS, the type signature language. What happens to Sorbet? So the engineers over at Stripe will incorporate RBS as a way to specify type annotations in addition to the existing syntax Sorbet supports. So as Matt mentioned earlier in his keynote, the Sorbet team will build the Sorbet with supporting both RBS and RBI, which stands for Ruby interface, which is the type signature language that Sorbet uses. And that's the source that it was released 2-3 weeks ago. So should you consider adding Sorbet to a running production app? Disclaimer, I've had to use Sorbet in a running production app. I've only used them in Ruby playgrounds and small code base so nothing large scale. And I think you should, although the support for Rails and other major gems in the ecosystem are somewhat lacking, which is expected because they are new. So when it comes to type checking, there will be some issues and something missing. But I can see this coming handy if you write like service objects. Yes, I love service objects. And yeah, I can't think of other reasons why you shouldn't use Sorbet other than the maturing ecosystem, since, as I said, it's recently new. It was released to the public last year. So demo time. I have a small Ruby file with a couple of classes. So as we can see in this playground.rb, there are some syntax that you might have seen, such as type true, sig return string. So we'll go through that. So if you use Sorbet, there are 4 or 5 types of types that you can specify. So true meaning Sorbet will check your file and see whether there is a method that is returning incorrect data type. Let's say this method is returning a string, which you need to expect it to return integer. It will throw an error. There's also type false. So type false will be ignored by Sorbet. It won't check the file, other than syntax errors. There's also type ignore, which is entirely ignored, but type ignore, if the code is being used in other files, then it could potentially raise certain Sorbet errors if you cannot find methods, for example, or if the methods are returning unexpected data type. So moving on from that, requires Sorbet runtime. So Sorbet runtime is the package, the gem that is required to write the signature in the code. So we can see that there's extend tsig. This will give the hello class, the sig method, which is then used to expect that say hello world should return integer. And without Sorbet runtime, you are unable to run the code at runtime. Only if we disable, if we remove Sorbet runtime and we run srb. Ooh, expected integer. So srb is the CLI for Sorbet, so we can run srb init. This is for initializing a Ruby project, initializing Sorbet for a Ruby project. And since I've already done that, I am not going to do it again. Or actually, it shouldn't make any difference because it's a small code base. Running srb init will create a folder called Sorbet, and in there, in Sorbet folder, it will consist of RBI files. So these files are basically RBI what's correct declarations found within gems that we use, but Sorbet cannot see. Because right now, Sorbet can only see playground.rb. It cannot see that we're using Ruby or active support, so it will go through our gems and create this Sorbet folder with all the type checks if it's possible to be done, because the ecosystem is still maturing. So there's some examples here. The big file actually 2,800 lines. To do RBI, I have not explored this yet. Errors, function name. I couldn't find out why this is happening. Anyway, so let me show what happens if we run this file without requiring Sorbet runtime. It will throw an uninitialized constant error because T6 is only is given by Sorbet runtime. So we uncomment it, click on the RB. Oh, there's an error here. Return value external type integer got type string with the hello world. So this one is the one that we did earlier. Change to string and it should pass. There we go. Let's access the IRB and play around with the code. I'm going to show some syntax. And that is true. I like to eat bitter butter. All right, so we have seen that we can declare type tags for types for methods, like this syntax right here, sig return string above the method. So how do we declare the types for a variable? Let's say we have a name called Ari. In Sorbet, it has 4 type sections, if I'm not mistaken. So we can use one that is used for giving the expression a type, could be t.let. So the first argument is the value, and the second is the data type, or we're giving a string. So how do we check whether, how do we retrieve the data type of this name? T, retrieve type. Oh wait, reveal type, my bad. Oh, it doesn't reveal here. Interesting. Okay, interesting. It's not working. Right. Let's see what happens. T name. Let T must names. Okay, T must name. So tmust is a way to execute code and create an error if the value is nil. The value here must be a non-nil value. So if it's 1, 2, 3, it won't throw an error. So if we have a method, let's say Jeff say something, and we have name. Let's H. Let's say 30. And we can change it back to nil. Okay. And then we run tmust H. And we want to print user is yes or say something. Then it will throw an error because H is nil. And one of the things I like about Sorbet is that it removes the need for you to raise argument error, which you might have done many times before. So for example, def add user ID to let's say a project, user ID, and raise argument error if the ID nil, or maybe is a hash. Project ID, the ID. It's a project. So if it is a hash, oh no, I missed the question mark. Let's find that again. There's argument error. Yeah, this is what we usually do. I usually do. And if we use Sorbet instead, let's create a class. Oh, actually, okay, no, I don't know what here. Require Sorbet runtime. There's a bug with requiring the runtime in the top level, the root. Yeah, sorry, I'm done. So we need to declare the types for methods when the methods are sitting within a class or a module. We cannot do that in top level at the moment. So class, let's call it food, sig, returns, blanks, name, string, returns, strings. Yeah. Order food, name, right, ship order for name, food. Oh no, I missed out on the curly brackets. So it's not here. Oh, I forgot to extend the signature. Okay. And the sig. Now, all the food. If we were to pass in, let's say, burgers. Oh, what's this? Name, string, return string. Type nil class. Oh, this is because we are using puts, and when we use puts, it will be considered as void. So what we need to do is, let's declare it again, and class name string void. So if it's not returning anything from the function, we have to use void. We cannot use returns. It's a design requirement. It is one of the design decisions in Sorbet. So void. Therefore, the group name puts how like order for new order figures, and it will return the type as well. As we can see here, it is type void. So what happens if we pass instead a hash, and it will throw an error? So just like the first example here, is it no longer here? Oh, it's no longer here. It's gone. So instead of using the raise argument error to check whether the argument given to a method is a valid data type like hash or a string, we could use signatures. Acts as a type check. So no more raise argument error is required. And I believe that is all I have to demo. Yeah. All right.
I saw your demo slide going out, and I thought you were continuing your presentation again, but you aren't. So let's see if we have any questions from the audience. 1 second, I'll get my book because I made my. 1 second. Merci bien. So Hong Lee asked, we'd like to do autocomplete in VS Code based on Sorbet type signatures. Then there was a reaction by someone else. Well, because there's no official extension, there came a reaction that there is a third-party extension, a third-party tool called Sorbet LSP. Is that what you're using in Visual Studio Code, Ali?
I tried setting up Sorbet LSP, but it couldn't work for some reason. It kept crashing, even though I followed the instructions. And at the moment, Stripe the team over there, they are using they're creating an LSP family, what's the word? Let me check the documentation real quick. They're already developing it, but it's not yet released to the public. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I had. You said in your talk that you're not using it in a production environment yet. You have no code with that you did running production. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, what would be a project that you would really look forward to get in production that Sorbet type checks?
In production, projects I've worked on, or any specifics?
Well, what are you working on that you would be really happy to have type checks for and put in production?
I'm working on the backend for an app that has HR management, payroll, and all that. So having type checks would certainly come in handy in certain parts of the code base because they are massive, especially the payroll module. And I feel that having type checks for such a module that is complicated like payroll, it can come in handy. And
okay. Then I have another question because, clearly we can write our own documentation. We can even write, tests because, that's what they're there for, so you know how your code works. But how do you see a possibility to generate your documentation from your typings?
Generate document from typing. I've not explored that. I've seen yard documentation being mentioned in one of the community pages on Sorbet, but I've not explored creating tests or documentation from type checks written. On Sorbet, there are yard Sorbet, a yard plugin to parse out the signatures when generating logs. So that's one of the community,
Okay.
but I've not used it yet.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time, for your presentation. And I'm very happy with what you told us, how you revealed it to us. That was very helpful. Something I am looking forward to, Sorbet, something I'm looking forward to use in my own systems. Put it in my. Thank you very much.